What if I told you that the most powerful secret society in human history didn't trust a single human to keep their greatest secret? What if their most loyal guardian had 4 legs, cold, wet nose, and eyes that saw through every lie ever told? This is not a fairy tale. This is not fiction. This is the story of Cipher, the dog who knew too much, and the men who spent 500 years trying to silence him. The year is 1497, Florence, Italy. The streets are narrow, cobblestoned, and wet from 3 days of rain. Torches flicker on stone walls. Shadows move where no person stands. In a hidden underground chamber beneath a wealthy merchant's villa, 12 men sit around a triangular table. Not a round table, a triangle. Each man wears a ring. On each ring, a single symbol, an eye inside a pyramid. These men have no elected leader. No king, no pope controls them. They answer to no throne, no flag, no nation. They call themselves the Eternal Ones. You might know them by another name. Tonight, they are deciding the fate of an entire city. Which merchant will rise? Which nobleman will fall? Which family will be destroyed before sunrise? But something unusual sits at the head of that triangular table. Not a man, not a scroll, not a candle. A dog. A large, silver-gray dog with one amber eye and one eye the color of storm clouds. Sitting perfectly still, perfectly calm, as if he has done this 1,000 times before. Because he has. His name is Cipher. And tonight, everything is about to change. One of the 12 men, a nervous young initiate named Marco, leans toward the elder beside him and whispers, "Why is there a dog at this table? Who brought the animal?" The elder does not look at Marco. He stares at Cipher. "He was here before any of us," the elder whispers back. "He was here before this table, before this room, before this city." Marco laughs softly. "That's impossible. Dogs don't live that long." The elder finally turns to look at Marco. His eyes are not amused. "Neither do secrets," he says. "And yet here we both are." That night, the 12 men made their decision. They signed documents. They sealed fates. They spoke words that moved armies and toppled kings. And through it all, Cipher watched. Not with the dull eyes of a tired animal, with the sharp, knowing gaze of something that understood every single word. When the meeting ended and the men began to leave, the Grand Elder, an ancient man named Aldo Ferrante, stayed behind. He knelt beside Cipher, placed one weathered hand on the dog's silver head. "You heard everything again," Aldo said quietly. As always, Cipher simply looked at him, calm, patient, ancient. "Someday," Aldo whispered, "someone will ask you what you know. And I pray you never answer." He stood, blew out the candle, and in the darkness, Cipher's storm cloud eye glowed faintly gold. To understand Cipher, we must go back much further than Florence. We must go back to the banks of the Nile River, ancient Egypt, the time of the pharaohs. In Egyptian mythology, there was a god named Anubis, the jackal-headed guardian of the dead, the keeper of souls, the weigher of hearts. But what the history books don't tell you is that Anubis had a companion. Not another god, not a human servant, not a priest. A dog. A real, living, breathing dog, gray as smoke, with mismatched eyes, who walked beside Anubis in the realm between the living and the dead. This dog had one purpose: to witness, not to judge, not to punish, not to reward, simply to see, to know, to remember. Because even gods needed a witness. Even gods needed someone who would hold the truth when everything else turned to dust. The ancient Egyptians believed that if a secret was spoken in front of this dog, truly spoken, from the heart, it could never be destroyed. It was locked away forever in a place no human hand could reach and no human mind could access. They called this dog Khepri Anhur, which roughly translates to the one who carries what cannot be spoken. Over centuries, as empires rose and fell, as Egypt crumbled and new powers emerged, this idea traveled from Egypt to Greece, from Greece to Rome, from Rome to the secret societies that formed in the shadows of collapsing empires. Men who understood that real power was not held in armies or gold. Real power was held in secrets. And the greatest secret of all was that somewhere, walking among the living, was a dog who remembered everything. Now, let me be clear about something. The Illuminati, the real organization, not the cartoon version, Hollywood sells you, was not founded in '76 by Adam Weishaupt, as history claims. That was simply the moment they allowed the world to think they were founded. The real organization is far older. And in every generation, in every era, there are records, hidden records, private records, records that were never meant to be found, of a gray dog with mismatched eyes, appearing at moments of extraordinary historical significance. Let me show you what I mean. Rome, 44 BC. On the night before Julius Caesar was assassinated, a gray dog was seen sitting outside the Senate building. Guards tried to chase it away 3 times. 3 times it returned. By morning, Caesar was dead. A Roman historian named Valerius, whose works were later destroyed, wrote in his private journal, "The gray dog saw it coming. It always does." London 1666. The Great Fire of London. 5 days. 13,000 homes destroyed. The city rebuilt from ash. But what started that fire? The official story, a baker's oven on Pudding Lane. The unofficial story, found in a handwritten letter, discovered in 1987 in a sealed vault in the British Museum, tells of a secret meeting 3 nights before the fire. 12 men, a triangular table, and a gray dog sitting silently in the corner. The letter ends with one line, "The dog watched us decide." God help us all. Philadelphia 1776. The signing of the Declaration of Independence. Most people focus on the 56 men who signed that document. But in a private sketch, drawn by an unknown artist and found among Benjamin Franklin's personal papers, there is something in the corner of the room that no history book mentions. A gray dog, sitting quietly near the window, watching. Franklin himself wrote in a coded letter to a friend in France. Our 4-legged witness was present, as always. The compact is sealed. Berlin 1945. As World War II ended and the world's greatest powers carved up the future of civilization in secret meetings across Europe, witnesses in 3 separate locations reported the same thing. A large gray dog, calm and silent, present in the room. A British intelligence officer named Harold Sims wrote in his declassified 1971 memoir, "None of us spoke of the dog afterward. We understood somehow that speaking of it was not permitted." Narrator pauses, music softens. Same dog. Different centuries. Same mismatched eyes. Same silver-gray coat. Same absolute stillness. Impossible? Of course it's impossible. And yet the records exist. So the question is not whether Cipher is real. The question is, what does he know? And more importantly, what happens to the person who gets too close to finding out? His name is Daniel Marsh, 34 years old. Former journalist. Former is the key word. Daniel was fired from the Chicago Tribune 18 months ago for a story his editor refused to publish. A story about a series of unexplained connections between global financial decisions, political assassinations, and something he called the gray thread, a recurring symbol that appeared in documents spanning 500 years. An eye, a pyramid, and a dog. Since losing his job, Daniel has been living in a one-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Park, surviving on freelance work and obsession. His walls are covered in photographs, printouts, timelines, and red string connecting dozens of seemingly unrelated events across history. And in the center of it all, a single photograph. Grainy, black and white. Taken in 1923 at a private gathering in Switzerland. In the background, barely visible, almost hidden by shadow, a gray dog with mismatched eyes. Daniel has been looking for this dog for 18 months. He doesn't know why he can't stop. He doesn't know that the dog has already found him. It started 3 weeks ago. Daniel was walking home from the library, late, exhausted, carrying 4 bags of research documents when he saw it. Sitting on the steps of his apartment building. A large gray dog. Silver coat. One amber eye. One eye like a storm cloud. Daniel stopped walking. The dog looked at him. Not the way a normal dog looks at a stranger, curious, maybe nervous, tail uncertain. This dog looked at Daniel the way a professor looks at a student who has finally asked the right question. Patient, knowing, waiting. "Hey," Daniel said, because he didn't know what else to say. "You lost?" The dog stood up, walked to the door of the building, and sat down again. Looking at Daniel. Daniel opened the door. The dog walked in. And Daniel, a man who had no pets, no desire for pets, and a lease that specifically prohibited pets, followed him upstairs without a single moment of hesitation. As if he had no choice. As if this was always how it was going to happen. In the weeks that followed, strange things began to happen. Daniel had been stuck on his research for months. Walls everywhere. Missing links. Documents that led nowhere. But now, with Cipher in the apartment, because that's what Daniel named him, Cipher, without knowing why the name felt so right, things began to connect. Not because the dog spoke. Not because he led Daniel to hidden files or typed on a keyboard. But because of something far more unsettling. Daniel would be sitting at his desk, staring at 2 pieces of information that didn't fit together, frustrated, ready to give up, and Cipher would walk over, sit beside him, and stare at the wall. And Daniel would look at the wall, and suddenly, he would see it. The connection he had missed. The link that was invisible before. Every single time. "You're not helping me figure this out," Daniel said one night, exhausted and slightly terrified. "You're just reminding me of what I already know, aren't you?" Cipher looked at him. And for just a moment, Daniel would swear this in a court of law. The dog nodded. The most significant moment came on a Tuesday night in November. Daniel had found something extraordinary, a decoded section of a document from 1832 that referenced the living archive, a being that existed outside normal time, that had witnessed every significant secret compact made by the Eternal One since ancient Egypt. "The living archive cannot be destroyed," the document read. "It cannot be corrupted. It cannot be bought or threatened or silenced. It simply exists. It watches. It remembers. It waits." Daniel read those words. Then he looked at Cipher. Cipher looked back. "It's you, isn't it?" Daniel whispered. The apartment was completely silent. "You've been there for all of it. You watched all of it happen." Cipher walked slowly across the room and sat directly in front of Daniel. Closer than he had ever sat before. Close enough that Daniel could see, clearly, the strange depth in those mismatched eyes. And what Daniel saw in those eyes broke something open in his chest. Not fear, not madness. Memory. Thousands of years of memory. Flickering like candlelight. Images without words. Faces without names. Moments of enormous consequence, witnessed in silence, held in trust. A lifetime, 1,000 lifetimes, of watching humanity's greatest moments and darkest decisions. And through all of it, one constant truth: the secrets were safe. They had always been safe. They would always be safe. Daniel reached out and placed his hand on Cipher's head. "You're not here to help me expose them," he said quietly. "You're here because—" "Why? Why now? Why me?" Cipher closed his eyes. And in that moment, Daniel understood. They came on a Thursday morning. 2 men in dark coats. No badges, no identification. They rang Daniel's doorbell at 6 a.m., and when he opened the door, they simply said, "Mr. Marsh, we need to speak with you about your research." Daniel looked at them. Then he looked down. Cipher was standing beside him, still, silent. But something had changed. For the first time since Daniel had known him, Cipher was looking at these men with something different in his eyes. Not hostility, not fear, recognition. These men knew Cipher, and Cipher knew them. "Who are you?" Daniel asked. The taller man reached into his coat pocket and placed something on the doorframe, a small card with a single symbol on it. An eye, a pyramid. "We've been watching you for some time, Mr. Marsh," he said. "Your research is impressive and dangerous." "I'm not publishing anything," Daniel said. We know," the man said. "We're not here to stop you." He looked down at Cipher. "We're here because of him. He chose you. That hasn't happened in over 100 years. We needed to understand why." Daniel looked at Cipher. Cipher looked at Daniel. "And?" Daniel said. The man was quiet for a long moment. Then something unexpected happened. He smiled. "We think we understand now," he said. "You're not trying to destroy what we protect. You're trying to understand it. Isn't that dangerous?" Daniel asked. "For you?" The man shook his head slowly. "The secrets we keep aren't the ones you think," he said. "We don't run governments. We don't control banks. We don't start wars. Then what do you do?" The man looked at Cipher one more time. Something passed between them, old and wordless and enormous. "We make sure the truth survives," he said quietly. "Even when the world doesn't want it to. Even when it takes centuries. The secrets we keep aren't dangerous ones. They're sacred ones. Things that must be protected until the world is ready to receive them." "Ready for what?" Daniel asked. The man turned to leave. His partner was already walking away. "Ask him," the man said, nodding toward Cipher. "He'll show you. When you're ready." They walked down the stairs and out of the building. Daniel never saw them again. 6 weeks later, it was snowing in Chicago. The city was quiet. Daniel's apartment was warm. He had stopped working on his research wall. Not because he gave up, but because he had found something better than answers. He had found the right questions. He was sitting on the floor with Cipher, the way he did most evenings now. The dog's head in his lap. Snow falling outside the window. "I've been thinking," Daniel said, "about what this all means. About you." Cipher's amber eye caught the lamplight. "All those centuries. All those secrets. All those terrible things people decided in dark rooms. And you just watched. You never stopped any of it. You never interfered. Why?" He stroked Cipher's silver head gently. "I used to think the truth was a weapon. I thought if I exposed enough of it, I could change things. I was so angry." He looked at the snow outside. "But that's not what you've been doing, is it? You're not a weapon. You're a record. You're proof that everything happened. That it mattered. That nothing is ever truly lost or forgotten." Cipher lifted his head and looked at Daniel. "You're not here to help me fight. You're here to teach me something." Voice slows. "You're here to teach me that the truth doesn't need saving. It needs a witness." The room was completely still. Then Cipher did something he had never done before. He placed his large gray paw gently, deliberately, on Daniel's hand, and held it there. 1 month later, Daniel Marsh published something. Not the expose he had once planned. Not a conspiracy theory. Not a weapon. He published a book. A small one. Self-published. No major press. No marketing campaign. It was called The Witness. It was not about the Illuminati. It was not about secret societies or hidden power. It was about a gray dog with mismatched eyes who had walked through human history, watching, and what that watching meant. What it meant that even in our worst moments, something had always been present, watching, remembering, holding the truth in trust. It was about the idea that the universe keeps records, that nothing good, nothing true, nothing loving, no matter how small, no matter how forgotten, is ever truly lost. That even in the darkest chambers, where the worst decisions were made, a witness remained. Not to judge, not to punish, but to remember. The book sold modestly. It didn't change the world overnight. No bestseller lists. No movie deals. But the people who found it, really found it, said the same thing. I don't know why, but this made me feel like my life mattered. Like someone was paying attention. Daniel never found out what all the secrets were. He never decoded the full truth behind the organizations Cipher had witnessed. He never needed to. Because in the end, he understood something that years of obsessive research had never taught him. The most important secret the Illuminati ever kept was not about power. It was not about money. It was not about controlling the world. The greatest secret they ever kept was Cipher himself. A dog who had lived through all of human history. A dog who had witnessed every summit and every betrayal, every revolution and every surrender. A dog who held the full record of humanity's choices, shameful and the magnificent, in those ancient, mismatched eyes. And the secret was this: if you are ever truly honest, if you ever speak the full truth of your heart, something hears it. Something remembers. Something keeps it safe. Forever. One morning, Daniel woke up and Cipher was gone. No note. No trace. The apartment door was closed and locked, just as he had left it. Just gone. Daniel sat in the empty apartment for a long time. Then he smiled. Because on his research desk, where Cipher used to rest his head, there was a single gray hair. Silver, catching the morning light. Proof that it had all been real. Proof that he had been witness to. So tell me honestly, do you believe Cipher is still out there? Walking through history, watching, remembering, witnessing the moments that shape our world. The ones that make the news. And the ones that never will. I believe he is. And I believe that somewhere in a quiet room, in a city you have never heard of, a gray dog with mismatched eyes is sitting perfectly still, watching something unfold that the rest of us will not understand for another 100 years. If this story gave you chills, if it made you think, smash that like button right now. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who love stories like this. And if you are new here, welcome to Paw Tales. We tell the stories that history forgot. The stories that go deeper than headlines. The stories where dogs and humanity collide in ways nobody expects. Subscribe and hit the bell, because the next story we are working on is even more extraordinary than this one. And you do not want to miss it. Drop in the comments. Do you think Cipher is real? I read every single comment and I want to know what you think. Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and remember, something is always watching.